Sorry about that. Breaking news for you right now. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus has just issued a statement of opposition to Donald Trump hosting Saturday Night Live. Now, this, of course, comes after Trump made comments about illegal immigrants coming in through Mexico back in June that a lot of people were offended by. So their statement reads, therefore, be it resolved that the Congressional Hispanic Caucus calls upon NBC Universal, Broadway Video, and SNL executive producer Lorne Michael to disinvite Mr. Trump from hosting Saturday Night Live because racism is not funny. The values of respect and dignity for all people are more important than ratings and ad revenue. Plus, after all the GOP candidates' campaigns drafted their demands over the weekend for future debates, we've just learned that Donald Trump is rejecting that consensus and making his own individual demands on TV executives. Joining me now, Tammy Bruce, Fox News political contributor, Mercedes Schlapp, former Bush spokesperson, and Mark Serrano, former deputy campaign director for President George H.W. Bush and Proactive Communications president. Mark, you got a long title, so we'll start with you. Listen, I guess it's Monday, so Donald Trump, quote unquote, going rogue isn't new, but it feels like every time this happens, the plot thickens just a little bit more, and maybe the stakes are a little higher this time.
Well, if you take a look, if you're Lorne Michaels at NBC and you're looking at doubling your ratings versus trying to appease the Hispanic caucus in Congress, you're going to go with the ratings. Donald Trump, if he's going to go rogue in terms of negotiating a deal with networks for the debates, that's all about market share, right? He's the guy who's driving the ratings. He's the guy who has the ability. I mean, he's not going to sit at the same table and negotiate with the networks as Chris Christie or Rand Paul or Bobby Jindal. You know, that would be ridiculous. He's the guy who's driving the ratings for these networks. He's going to drive the ratings for NBC for Saturday Night Live. This is all about ratings for the front runner for the nomination.
But Mercedes, how can you have a debate of one? I mean, what's he going to do? Get his own stool, his own spotlight? And what are the other candidates going to say?
You know what, Charles? Donald Trump is capable of anything. And quite frankly, I think that it would have been smart for Reince Priebus, the RNC chair, to step aside and let Donald Trump handle all of these negotiations with the networks. So again, I think that for Donald Trump, he's going to make his stand. He did it last time with CNBC. He made it clear that it was going to be a 2-hour debate, that basically they were going to have opening and closing statements. He is setting the way he wants to do this. And guess what? I think that a lot of these networks are going to go forward, especially in the case of NBC, which right now we know it's suspended. But again, it could come back to life, and maybe we will have that debate.
You know, here's the thing, though, Tammy. All the campaigns got together over the weekend, and I really feel initially after that CNBC debate, it was really Reince Priebus trying to save his own neck, and they sort of came together as a group collectively to make demands. And now with Donald Trump saying he'll negotiate on his own, where does that put the other candidates? Because if I'm a candidate and Donald Trump makes certain demands and it feels like, hey, somehow he orchestrated this whole thing, I'll sit it out. I just think it's a lose-lose situation for anyone who shows up at a campaign debate that's been completely orchestrated by Donald Trump.
Well, at this point, for everyone, because the numbers are so high, they can actually thank Donald Trump for bringing extra eyes, perhaps. Already, Reince Priebus, though, has demoted one man who was handling the debates, has changed up some of the staff, so that's had an impact at the RNC. But at this point, I think Donald Trump is very smart in that his demands really aren't so different as the main
Well, what
group.
are they? You know them already?
It's primarily an opening statement. It's that they know what the format is before they have the debate, which is reasonable, that they understand kind of what the intent and the direction is. Some of the candidates, that are on the lower end, of course, wanted more people on the main stage. He doesn't want that. And yet it also, for him, I think that he can, at the end of this, say that he's the one who negotiated this. He's the one who made this be a winner, when in fact it's not so different than what everyone else has been talking about.
All right, now, of course, the presidential hopefuls are coming off really quite negative. Some people are saying they're starting to come off real negative so far. And the big question is, can this be the party of Reagan? Can they resurrect that old Ronald Reagan enthusiasm, that optimism that really captivated this nation and lifted everyone's spirits? I'll ask you, Mercedes, on this first, because everyone keeps invoking Ronald Reagan's name, but I don't feel that same sort of morning in America for all Americans just yet. I feel a lot of finger pointing. I feel a lot of griping. I feel a lot of anger. You know, anger has been the main driver here, and that wasn't Ronald Reagan.
Look, Charles, I don't know if you were born back in the late 1970s or not, but you got to remember, Ronald Reagan was a tough campaigner. There was that one moment back in the New Hampshire debate where he was debating George H.W. Bush, and he said, quote, "I paid for this microphone." He was actually a tougher debater in the primaries than he was against President Jimmy Carter. So again, I think this is just the rough and tough part of politics. It's what happens during a primary. I do believe that those candidates that stay above the fray and are really able to focus on the optimistic message and are really able to hone in on all this passion and anger that's out there on the GOP side will resonate. But again, I think that to say that, Reagan was completely all optimistic, you need to look at the past and the history, and you'll see that actually he was tougher than nails.
Yeah.
But did the American public feel an optimism because of him? Did they feel it was morning in America, Mark? Or was it all about, hey, I'm going to go with the candidate that pisses me, that feels my anger and stokes it even more?
Well, Reagan was an unknown at the time. And don't forget, he came in after just one term of Jimmy Carter. We're looking at 2 terms of President Obama and this abysmal economic recovery almost after 7 years now and after 8 years with the end of the term. The truth is this is a caricature of the left. About Republicans being mean and nasty and negative. The truth is, these candidates running for president on the Republican side couldn't be more optimistic about our future, but they know we need a complete course correction, and they are in touch and in contact with the misery that's been felt by many, many millions of Americans for the past several years. They still, at the same time, are optimistic about our opportunity. Believe me, I have run around the country with a candidate for president. It is a miserable existence month after month after month. You got to be optimistic and believe in America if you want to go through that for all these months.
Right, and Tammy, the point being made here, of course, is that this would have been 8 years of divisiveness, of someone who deliberately put American against American, and I think we would be established, or we would be prepared as a people, as a nation, for someone to heal us.
Well, absolutely, but also we know what these last 7, 8 years have been. We've also been lied to. We've been treated as though, well, the Jonathan Gruber theory, that we're all a bunch of idiots. There is an anger out there, but conservatives, one of the greatest weaknesses and strengths of conservatives is they are optimistic and they're romantic. And this is why this nation has been as great as it has been, not because of liberalism, but because of the forward-looking of conservatives. And
do you think that resonates with the average person, though? Someone made the point earlier that the mainstream media has painted the exact opposite picture. If you went to a local train station and asked the first 20 people, they would say conservatives are optimistic or mean-spirited.
Well, I think when you're looking at the average American...
remember, we're in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, look, in general, you're with America, which goes center-right effectively. We know what conservatism is. All the American people want is a Republican Party which actually acknowledges the nature of the fact that the country has, somebody's trying to destroy us. Someone has destroyed our economy right now. That is worthy being angry about. But you can be angry and then also be optimistic about the changes you're going to make.
Hey. And you know what, Charles? Who's really ticked off are Reagan Democrats who are going to come to the Republican side.
Yeah,
I agree. And they're certainly up for grabs. There's no doubt about that.
And all those independents.
Hey, by the way, guys, you saw this, a major victory for Marco Rubio. Gained the support over the weekend of billionaire Paul Singer. Now, Singer, he described Rubio as the only candidate who can navigate the complex primary process and still be in a position to defeat Hillary Clinton. So what does this endorsement mean for Rubio's campaign, Tammy?
Well, he's got to be very careful because right now it looks like also if he gets the Sheldon Adelson endorsement and money, that he is the default establishment choice. So he's got to be very careful about what that means. At the same time, Mr. Singer, of course, endorsed Mitt Romney. This is a very different time. I think many of the candidates on the lineup that we have can be in a position like Ted Cruz also to defeat Hillary Clinton. But Mr. Singer has made a point of having a liberal point of view on the social issues, which I also happen to agree with. That might be an issue when it comes to the nomination process and what the basic base of the Republican Party is looking for.
But also, Mark, there's a sort of sense that the Republican, this is a bruising fight. It's been acknowledged already here in this panel that this is just, that's how it goes. You got to go in there ham-fisted, tough-skinned, and you're going to come out with some bruises no matter who you are. But it seems like he's saying that of all the people out there that are in the mix, that somehow Rubio's going to dodge the most punches and come out this smelling like a rose. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think he's looking at this and saying Jeb Bush was the odds-on favorite for the establishment, and this looks like a safe choice as a second choice for the establishment. But that is sort of like it could be the kiss of death, because this is going to be a year for the outsider. If you look at the latest poll, 56% of Republicans are going with an outsider. So for Rubio to all of a sudden to become the favorite of the establishment, I mean, that might be like being the favorite skunk at the zoo, in an election, where an outsider is the odds-on favorite, at least of right now with the polling. So it's, look, Rubio looks like a safer choice. He's very polished. He's very professional. He could be a terrific leader for us, but you're right. He's not fully tested through a campaign like this.
Mercedes, we know it's a double-edged sword, but that's a lot of money and a lot of influence. And by the way, Paul Singer is known to be a very good friend to Israel, and that also stamps Rubio as a friend to Israel.
Right. I think, it's a double-edged sword. I think that it does allow, Paul Singer allows the money and several of these other donors out there to be swayed and go towards supporting Rubio. On the other hand, as Tammy had mentioned, the fact that he is a moderate, it doesn't sit well with the conservatives, which is why you could see a Ted Cruz benefiting, also receiving additional money from the more conservative donors. So again, but I think this is sending a strong message out there that, look, we're going to need to rally around one establishment type of candidate, and that might be Rubio. But you got to mention that about 10 of these guys have to drop out for any establishment candidate to rise up.
I think we'll start getting that weeding out process real soon, and I hope it's not true that he's going to have to call him sir. We'll leave it right there, guys. By the way, you don't want to miss Fox Business's very own Republican debate. Make sure you tune in. You're going to see the GOP hopefuls take center stage in Wisconsin. That's next Tuesday, November 10th at 6 and 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fox Business Network.